Thank you for listening to the BJJ Brick Podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, my friends, to episode 194 of the BJJ Brick Podcast. My name is Byron. I'm here with Gary. Gary, we've got a great show this week.
We do. We have a repeat guest. We haven't had very many repeat guests because, there's so many great people we've wanted to interview. But this week we have the one, the only Steve Maxwell back on the show.
Yeah, I really enjoyed talking with Steve. We talk about a lot of different topics in this interview, and he's an interesting person. And he's one of the first, black belts from the United States. And he's got a lot of history to him, and he's kind of teaching jiu-jitsu and fitness to a lot of different people, and he really has some really great ideas and some philosophy. So great to have him back on the show. Excited to bring that to everybody.
Yeah, we're definitely excited. And, I was just thinking him and his son, Zach, are probably the only father-son we've had on the show. Would that be correct?
Yeah, I would think so. I'm not 100% sure after almost 200 episodes. I think you're right, Gary.
Yeah, I was trying to think back. I think that might be it. But so definitely stay tuned. Do not miss the interview with Steve Maxwell.
Yep, and if you haven't checked it out, our first interview with Steve Maxwell was actually a two-part series, I guess, episode 72 and episode 73. So that was a while. That was in early March of 2015. So it's been a little while, and I realized that I'm like, man, I got to call Steve Maxwell back, and here we go. So that's going to be a lot of fun, and you're gonna enjoy this interview. So if you want to go back and listen to what he's talking about a few years back, a lot of it's timeless. They call evergreen stuff. So go check out the old stuff too. It's all good, Gary. Much like our email list is all good.
It's all good in the hood.
Get on our email list, and we'll send you out the show notes to each and every show once a week, and it just has all the stuff there, easy for you to find. Check out the article of the week. If you forget the quote, and you're like, that's a good quote, I forgot how it was worded. Hey, look in your email box, and it'll be there for you.
And also check out our link for Byron's audiobook, 6 BJJ Training Games. It's the newest audiobook on the BJJ Brick list of audiobooks, and it's only $5.99. And basically, the goal of this book is to play while rolling, and it's going to get you better faster, going to develop your teams, discover unique games, and what's the most important thing? Have more fun. So definitely it's getting some great reviews. It's about an hour long. Like I said, only $5.99. Check it out and have fun and get your BJJ game much better. Yep.
I had a lot of fun recording that. And the idea of playing a game while you're rolling has been something that has been a lot of help towards me. And I'm really happy to share that with the audience.
Yeah, I'm always playing a game when I roll. It's called Try Not to Tap Out. And I lose most of the time, but, I try.
Yeah, you got to try.
Yeah.
That's good, Gary. I'm glad to hear about you trying there.
Speaking of trying, we have an awesome quote this week, Byron.
I'd like to hear you try it.
I'm going to try it. The quote comes from James Cash Penny, not Johnny Cash. This is another person. But his quote is, "The best teamwork comes from men who are working independently toward one goal in unison." And, awesome quote right there. And it kind of makes me think of your jiu-jitsu team. Basically, you're working. You go in there and you're trying to better yourself. You're trying to win tournaments. You're trying to, become the next belt. You're trying to get better submissions, better submission defense. You're always trying to make yourself better, but you're also working in unison to make that team better. As you get better, your team gets better. As your team gets better, you get better. It all kind of, goes together. Even though a lot of people think it's an individual sport because you're the only person out there on the mat, it's you against another person. Really, there's no way you're going to win without teammates and a coach behind you that you all work together to make the whole room better.
Yeah, there are so many elements to a team, and you could think of a team as being a group of gals and guys that go out and compete together, or you could also think of the team as the group of people who are at the gym when you show up. And if you're someone who goes and competes, the people who aren't competing are still part of your team, and they're still helping you get better. And I'm thinking of this several ways, but one way is you might have somebody who's got a really good half guard. You might have somebody who could pass basically every guard that is put in front of them. And so and a lot of other people like that. But by having that good half guard player on your team, you're going to have like a built-up resistance to half guards. If you don't have that person on your team, it's going to be an area that, you know how to pass half guard. But when you get somebody who's got that good half guard, they're going to just sweep you with it right away. But because you have that element of your team that's strong, and that's like their role, so their role is to play that good half guard on the team. That their role towards you is to send that best at you and really show you where you're lacking on your passing for that half. And you could look at this the same, like anything you're good at, you're bringing that to the team. And you could think of other teams, like a football team. One guy's job might be to block. Another guy's job, I don't know what they call the position, but he might be to throw the ball. And another
That's a quarterback.
Okay,
Mark.
yeah. We're talking about quarters. The guy's name is Penny. This is all confusing to me, Gary. I'm so new at this.
Yeah, we can tell.
But another person's job might be to receive the ball and try to run it into a goal. Is that right, Gary?
Into the end zone.
Okay, that's right. But you know what I'm saying? Like, so if the quarterback is worried about blocking, which legitimately he probably is worried a little bit about, that the blocker's on the job, but it's not his job. Your job is to throw the ball. If the blocker's worried about whether the person's going to catch the ball, that's not helping anybody. You have one job: block the person in front of you from getting to that quarterback. Man, I'm doing pretty good at a football analogy.
You are.
Football, American football, not soccer.
Not football.
So you can take this a little. We're different as a grappling team, but to me, part of it is if you're bringing your best skills and assets to the team, the whole team's going to benefit. And that might even just be something as simple as being welcoming to guests that come in and strangers that are visiting the gym for the first time. That's part of a team. You might have somebody who's really good come in the class to check it out because they're in town for the first time looking for a place to train. And you're pretty, the team's good. They go check the other team is pretty good. They're about the same. But over here, this person was really nice to me. I feel like I've already made a friend there. And that person who may not even be a serious grappler is what tipped the scales towards to where that person actually ended up training and actually builds the technical side of the team based on a non-technical feature of it. I don't know. There's a lot going on to a team. Not always just pure jiu-jitsu. Sometimes it's social aspects, and sometimes it's positive encouragement and that sort of thing as well. But,
Byron was talking to me one day, and we had this exact same conversation.
Okay.
I was kind of asking him what I bring to the team, and Byron said, "Man, he's like, the reason I call you Boucher is because you're great at filling everybody's water cup."
Yeah.
So he calls me the water boy and says I've done a great job of making sure everybody's fully hydrated with quality H2O.
High quality H2O. That's one of Gary's biggest priorities is to make sure everybody has that.
Yep, so I'm proud of it. I'm definitely good at something.
We're entering into the summer months here, and it gets hot, and that's another tip that Gary has for you. What's that? Why is it so important to stay hydrated, Gary?
Well, Mama says that if you don't stay hydrated, you may cramp up on the mat. So always listen to Mama.
Why is the alligator always so mad?
The alligator's always so mad because I forgot that part.
I forget it. Is it because he has so many teeth and no toothbrush or something like that?
Yeah, that's it. Yep. And Colonel Sanders said it too.
Ah, nice. Yes. Medulla oblongata.
Now, is there anyone here that can tell me why most alligators are abnormally aggressive?
I know the answer to this question. Raise your hand.
Anybody? Anyone? Yes or you, sir?
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Your mama said it. Alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth and no toothbrush. Wow. Anybody else? Yes, sir, you, sir.
Alligators are aggressive because of an enlarged medulla oblongata. It's the sector of the brain which controls aggressive behavior.
That is correct. The medulla oblongata.
But Mama
The
said...
medulla oblongata is where anger, jealousy, and aggression come from. Now, is there anybody here can tell me where happiness comes from? All right, let's hear what Mama has to say on the subject.
Mama say that happiness is from magic rays of sunshine that come down when you're feeling blue.
Well, folks, Mama's wrong again.
No, Colonel Sanders, you're wrong. Mama's right.
Mama's right. Mama's right. Something wrong with his medulla oblongata.
So, anyway, yeah, that's a good quote, Gary. And I like you always pull in a good movie reference, and I'm lucky if I know what the movie's from. So, if you haven't
thank you.
If you haven't seen the movie Waterboy, I recommend it. Gary, does it get a thumb up from you?
Oh, definitely gets a thumb up, and definitely check it out. Byron's going to put a link to it in the show notes.
Okay, I'll do that. Thanks, Gary. One more thing to do. Well, while you're staying hydrated, sit back, drink your water. Or maybe you're out jogging or something like that.
Get some
lifting
popcorn.
weights. Here is our interview with Steve Maxwell. He is the most interesting grappler in the world.
I invented a way to train BJJ without a partner. After only a couple of weeks of this training, my cauliflower doubled in size. I complained that my training partner was too rough. Many years ago, I invented a guard pass called the Robin. I named it after the bird. The pass did not seem to have much use until the worm guard became popular. Not only does this robin defeat the worm guard, this bird was also early. I don't always listen to podcasts, but when I do, I prefer the BJJ Brick podcast. Stay sweaty, my friends.
All right, my friends, I'm happy to bring back Steve Maxwell to the BJJ Brick podcast. Steve, it's been over 2 years since we've had you on. You're one of the top fitness coaches in the world. You're one of the first American black belts. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Always glad to have my voice heard. As you know, I make my living in both the fitness realm and the jiu-jitsu domain. So anytime I can get my voice heard, it's definitely good for business.
Well, that's good, and I just can't believe it's been that long. I had such a great time talking with you last time, and really looking forward to getting you back on the show. Got a lot of different topics, a wide variety of things to cover today, but we had kind of a nice. I urge somebody that hasn't heard about you before or the past interview, go back and listen to it. I'll put a link to it in the notes. I think it was 72 was the first interview with you. You did a really nice detailed history, kind of. I don't know how detailed, but we talked about your early training and wrestling and trying striking martial arts. But could you just kind of give us a little bio about who you are and what you're doing?
Well, it's really interesting. A lot of people go through life with jobs they hate, and, doing things that they're not particularly happy with, but they do them anyway, either out of a duty to their family, or sometimes they're just hooked on material stuff and they got to pay the bills, And I was very lucky and very fortunate. When I was 12 years old, I remember saying I wanted to be a physical education teacher because the people I admired most were my PE teachers and my coaches in school. I started wrestling from an early age. It was the only sport I was good at. I pretty much sucked at basketball and baseball, and I was too little for football as a small kid. And I found that I was pretty decent at wrestling, didn't have the endurance for distance running in track and field or cross country, and I didn't have the speed for any kind of sprint work. And I was too small for the field event. So, wrestling was it. Probably would have done okay at gymnastics had they had it back in those days. And all my training was geared towards wrestling, to make me a better athlete. That was my whole shtick. Better performance. I didn't care about powerlifting, weightlifting, demonstrating strength, becoming a strength specialist. Nor was I even interested in bodybuilding or anything. I just wanted to be a better wrestler. And that's how I got started. My dad got me this rusty barbell set, and I lifted in his home in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, in the basement. It was a cellar dweller, and with my first barbell. I followed his old York barbell courses. Then I did have a brief love affair with Olympic lifting for a while, thinking that somehow the Olympic lifts were going to help my wrestling, but I found the exact opposite was true. They actually took away and detracted from my wrestling. That's one of those myths that still is pervasive to this day, that somehow Olympic lifts will make you more explosive. It's a bunch of nonsense. It's just a good way to get hurt. And the skill set required to do the Olympic lifts are tremendous. Guys specialize their whole life in just doing those lifts, and it really detracts from what you really need to be doing, and that's getting on the mat. So I knew from an early age I wanted to be a PE teacher, and I went on to graduate from the School of Health and Physical Education at Westchester State College. It was a state teachers college back in the day. And I went on to coach wrestling and teach at the high school level for a while. And kind of realized that, kids are pretty energy intensive, Kids are tough. And, I was good at it, but I found I really liked working with adults better. I had been doing part-time jobs at gyms, local gyms, and I really liked working with adults. And, of course, in those days, personal training was just in its infancy. In fact, it didn't really exist. I remember the first time I found out someone was willing to pay me good money to give them a workout. I couldn't believe it. It was something I enjoyed doing. In fact, I would train people for free. And here it was. I discovered I could actually make a living doing this. And it was like, wow, this is awesome. And then I always had this idea of opening my own gym someday. And I did that in 1990 in Philadelphia, PA. It was called Maxwell. It was the first Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu academy in the Eastern Seaboard. And it was also the first group kettlebell classes in the United States in modern times. So it was, started out very simple, wrestling coach, high school physical education and health teacher, to working in gyms, to eventually having my own gym and jiu-jitsu school.
Really ahead of the curve there with kettlebells and jiu-jitsu. What year was that you opened your gym?
That was in 1990. I was still very much in love with the high-intensity training philosophy, HIIT. I was very much into the Mike Mentzer theory. I did a lot of work with the super slow. Maybe you've heard of Tim Ferriss's book, the 4-Hour Body, Mike Mentzer, Heavy Duty, Arthur Jones, High Intensity, L. Darden. I had a lot of hammer strength equipment at that time. A lot of NFL football teams were very much into the high intensity training philosophy. And I found it a really good fit for a lot of my clients who were elderly. I worked with a lot of aging baby boomers and so forth. I had a lot of doctors that were clients, and they would send me patients for potential rehab. After the physical therapist had released them, a lot of these people were still barely ambulatory. So I used to do a lot of work with hammer strength and some vintage Nautilus pieces that had been retrofitted with super slow cams, and was very successful in helping those people. There's this whole movement nowadays that, machines are non-functional, That's a bunch of nonsense, man. Tell that to the 1973 Miami Dolphin football team. Their entire team was trained on Nautilus machines. They were the only team to go undefeated and win the Super Bowl. That was Don Shula. I believe that was 73. So, it's all functional. Anything that makes you stronger is functional. So this idea that this is functional, that's not. Anything that makes you stronger is functional. Whether it's a $20,000 Med-X lower back machine or, a sandbag, it doesn't matter. Anything that can make you stronger progressively and can be done in a safe, sane manner with good technique and good form will make you better no matter what you do. It doesn't matter. That's where people get really mixed up.
To kind of bring back up your difficulties with Olympic lifts, they're just too. You spend too much time having to learn how to do the lift properly. Is that what part of the problem with that was? Or
first of all, you need a really good coach so you don't hurt yourself. And a lot of people really hurt themselves. And Olympic lifters are frequently hurt, and they know how to do it. The second thing is we all know that due to the specificity of training, that one sport does not make you better at another sport. So practicing the sport of Olympic lifting is, you certainly get stronger. There's no doubt that you get stronger, but it's the assistance exercises that really help you become better at other sports, not so much the lifts themselves. The lifts are just too complex and too skilled. When you do strength training for sport, you want to keep it general and as non-specific as possible for the most part. There are some specific things you can do. For example, for grapplers and jiu-jitsu guys, towel chin-ups can be a real boon for grip forearms.
Yeah.
It's very yeah. That's specific. Rope climbing has been used forever by grapplers and wrestlers because it's really pretty much like grabbing a human wrist over and over and over again. So some of these things can be very, very useful. But, just regular chin-ups, regular pull-ups, regular push-ups, dips, any kind of barbell work with the bench. But the more skill a lift takes, the less application it has to anything else. And you get this very grooved in, coordinated movement pattern with the Olympic bar, and you're basically throwing a bar over your head and jumping underneath it when you do Olympic barbell snatch. That really doesn't apply to anything in real life. Not really. Yes, you will get stronger, but is it the best way to get strong for jiu-jitsu or wrestling? No, it is not. It's not even close. There's at least a dozen other exercises that are much safer, much easier to learn, and take a lot less time to master. That will give you way more, bang for the buck.
And there's different goals people are going to have. You might have the competitor that really wants to get that peak performance and have those great results on the mat. And you might have somebody who just wants to stay on the mat longer and continue to get enjoyment out of their grappling. And there's a place for both those, I guess, with the off-the-mat training.
Well, with the competitor, obviously, he needs to be peak physical condition. For him, it's a well-known fact that two athletes of the same skill, the stronger, better conditioned athlete will always win. So let's say you have two black belts in the finals. Both have the same exact skill sets. Both are just unbelievable. Well, the guy that is better shape is going to win. The guy that's stronger, better condition. It's a well-known fact. But a lot of times skill can offset strength, especially in a real high skill sport like jiu-jitsu. You have many guys that their skill sets are just so unbelievable that, they don't really need to be all that strong. But even they would be better if they were stronger. I've heard it said many times that you don't want to use more than 60% of your strength when you're on the mat. I've heard this, by many, many high-level guys. You only exert like really high levels just for short bursts now and again. But for the most part, you keep your output about 60%. But imagine if a young man starts jiu-jitsu and he more than doubles his strength, which is not uncommon. I've doubled and even tripled people's strength within just a couple of years of starting basic strength training. So imagine now you're 3 times stronger than what you were when you first started strength training. So 60% is going to be way up there. So your 60% is going to feel like another guy's 100%. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I wrestled with a guy today. He's a really good friend of mine. He was my first black belt, Scott Burr. He's a really amazing guy. He's a rock climber, just an amazingly strong guy, just one of the strongest grips. Like, for example, I'll give you an idea how strong this guy is. Have you ever done a one-arm hang, just hang by one hand off a high bar?
Yeah. I mean, I don't recall doing that like intentionally, but I think it was a little hard on my shoulder perhaps, and I pretty much failed on my hand. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, most people are lucky if they can hang at all. And if you can make like 10 to 15 seconds, you're pretty average. 20 seconds, you're strong. Well, I timed Scott the other day, did 1 minute and 47 seconds. And I think 1 minute and 43 on the other side. Yeah, that kind of strength.
Wow.
He can do a one-arm chin-up. So we were grappling today, actually, here in Sardinia. We pulled out some of this puzzle mats that this guy let us borrow on the sand. And we're playing around. And, this guy could at one time I could put a whooping on him. But, now that I'm 64, I'm on the downside, and he's still coming up. So he can pretty much crush me just with his pure strength if he wanted to. But we're matching trick for trick.
Yeah.
But it's just amazing how strong he is. Like, I would apply a really decent finishing hold on him, and he would just just effortlessly bowl out of it. And not even using strength. He was using strength, but I couldn't accuse him of overusing strength because his strength was so great. It was effortless for him to break whatever hold I was attempting on him.
He was staying under that 60% range.
Yeah. I mean, and the way you know that, and then for your listeners out there, especially the beginner guys, the way you know that, if you're getting winded in training, you're using too much power. That's how you know. If you're winded and you're out of breath, and especially if you're mouth breathing, first of all, you're doing yourself great harm to your health. You're really harming your health by going to the mouth. You want to, the old saying, mouth is for eating, nose is for breathing. You don't breathe in through the pie hole. You keep the pie hole shut, and you learn to nasal only breathe. This is one of the secrets to great endurance on the mat. And when you exceed your breath capacity, it means you're using too much power. You need to calm down and relax. Now, I'm not talking about going out there and trying to win the gold medal in the world. There, you're going to do anything you can to win, including get out of breath. You're going to get your gas pulled. I'm talking about normal training for the most part.
Normal training. So, somebody who is trying to get that gold medal, should they most of the time still stay under that 60% range, or do they need to be pushing themselves a couple times a week?
Well, most of the time when they're in the gym, they want to develop their skill sets as high as possible and try to use as little power as possible. That's part of the skills of jiu-jitsu. Part of the skill is making the other guy tired, making him pull his gas while you're conserving your energy. That's an actual skill unto itself. Some guys are just unbelievable at that. I can remember wrestling with Saul Ibero, and he could make me tap without even using his hands. I know. It sounds unbelievable, right? And then I saw him do it to Phil Michelariz. It was like, holy shit, I don't feel so bad. I felt like just I was a brown belt at the time. I felt like throwing my brown belt in the trash and putting a white belt back on. How the hell can this guy do this? Wow. But, he's a multiple, 5-time world champ, 3 or 4-time Abu Dhabi World Submission Wrestling champ. I mean, what the hell? The elite of the elite. So I didn't feel so bad, when I saw him do it to a guy that was much younger than myself. But that's just it. He wasn't using any power. He just knew how to use his weight, make me carry his weight, make me struggle, make me work, His brother Shanji, same thing. I mean, there's guys that are just incredible that way. Royce Gracie, the few times I've rolled with him, it was unbelievable. It's just the way he can just make you work and make you work so hard and make you struggle while he's really using no effort whatsoever. And that's the key. That's one of the skill sets. It's more than just rolling upside down into a berimbolo and, doing all these flips and things.
Yeah.
I've seen Royce Gracie totally gas guys out. And he doesn't use anything more than any blue belt knows. I mean, have you ever seen him use any technique that you didn't learn within your first year of jiu-jitsu? I never have. Yeah. And it's just amazing. But his precision, his timing, the way he makes the other guy work,
Yeah.
it's incredible. So, for conditioning, when guys say, "Oh, I'm so out of breath. I need to get in better shape. I need to do wind sprints. I need to run the stairs. I need to lift. I need to get stronger." Well, no, you just need to get a higher skill. You need to get the skill of making the other guy work. And stop trying to offset skill with strength and power. This is, your typical blue belt. Now, once you get your black belt, okay, go ahead, get as strong as possible. I've actually had many young guys that came in and really super strong guys to my old gym, Max's house. And I would literally say, look, man, it's going to be really hard for you to learn jiu-jitsu. You're just always going to use bull and power. And as soon as you get with a guy that's a little bit stronger than you, you're not going to have anything. The best thing you can do is just stop lifting weights for 6 months or so while you learn all the basics, and then put your weight training back into the mix. I've done that with many guys.
Yeah.
And it makes it a lot better for them. Master Elio Gracie one time told me, this was down in his farm. I stayed with him for a month one time at his farm, and I used to see him quite a bit in L.A. I was enrolled in the Gracie Instructor Training Program. It was a program that was started by Royce Gracie, Elio's oldest son, and Elio himself. And it was designed to teach people how to teach the Gracie system, which is an educational system. People always say, well, what's the difference between Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? There's two differences. The first difference is there's a huge emphasis placed on realistic street combat and the self-defense system. As an instructor, you're absolutely required to know all the stand-up self-defense, from punches, grabs, kicks, knife, stick, gun, baseball bat, from various positions. You need to know all that to get your ranking. The second thing is the way it's taught. It's a teaching style. It's a teaching system. Elio and his son Horion actually came up with a way that he believed was best for beginners to learn jiu-jitsu. Most instructors just randomly just pick stuff out of the air with no rhyme or reason. A lot of times they just don't even have a clue what they're doing or how to do it. Well, they had a systematic approach to teaching jiu-jitsu to people for that first year in particular, that really critical year. So I was very privy. I was very privileged to learn that system. And one of the major requirements was, of course, the emphasis on being able to defend yourself in realistic situations, not just sitting down on your butt in half guard. It's not going to work so good in the parking lot outside the nightclub, man. It's good to back yourself up. Now, I do talk to a lot of young guys. They just love doing the sport. They could care less, about, the self-defense part of it. They feel like, most of them are pacifist and, peaceful guys. I respect that. I do. But I still say it doesn't hurt to back yourself up. Why not know it? It's part of the original art. Why just learn part of it, Why not learn all of it?
Yeah.
All the classic throws, all the classic takedowns. And basically it has the classic takedowns of wrestling and the classic throws of judo. It's all in there. It's all part of the thing. And it's really good. It's really quite effective. It's really well developed. And it's very complete. And you wouldn't really need to, a lot of guys are into the MMA scene now, and they think that the Muay Thai is going to be their stand-up self-defense. Not if you're facing, some monster guy, man. I was just at Crow Cop's house. I'm really popular in Croatia. Anyway, I got a chance to go over to Marco's house and check out his home gym and talk training with him. Wow, what a setup this guy has. He has a complete UFC cage, a jiu-jitsu mat big enough probably to hold like 20 people, a really nice little weight room. Although he tells me now he's 100% into body weight training. He doesn't use weights anymore. He feels he gets everything he needs for his MMA with the body weight. He showed me some of the things he does, and he does some lifting, but, speaking of sports specific, he does lifts with his partner's body weight.
Oh, okay.
He'll actually do very specific lifting with his partner. Right now, he's training with a guy from Japan who was Olympic gold medalist in judo. He told me the guy's name, and I'm sorry that I just went right out of my head. Anyway, he's training this guy for some MMA fights in Japan. He said this judo guy's just unbelievable on his feet. And but anyway, he showed me some of his partner lifting drills and his bodyweight training. And I'm a pretty big advocate of the bodyweight training myself, especially since I travel full time. I'm on the road. It's just very convenient.
Yeah, and I do want to get into a little bit of your traveling here in a little bit, but the body weight versus the hitting the weights and actual machines or equipment exercises. So you're starting to lean more towards the body weight stuff, or it just depends on the person what their goals
because
are?
they don't have any equipment. Because I'm in a different city every couple of weeks, I think I've been in 5 different hotels in about the last 10 days. I wake up in the middle of the night sometimes, not like, where am I? Where's that bathroom, man? Feeling around in the dark, bumping your head. But so, it really ultimately doesn't matter. As long as you're taxing your muscles against some form of resistance. It could be rubber bands. It could be your own body weight. It could be barbells. It could be kettlebells. It could be dumbbells. It could be sandbags. It could be lifting your partner. It just doesn't matter as long as you're taxing the muscles and making them work. But you want to do it in a safe, progressive manner that is not weakening your tissues or causing any type of damage, micro trauma to the joints, micro trauma to the connective tissue. That's why, especially as you get older, I'm a big advocate of slow, high tension, controlled repetition training. As a man gets older, form and technique become even more important for injury prevention. Now, can you use shitty form and still get results? Of course. You see it all the time. You see YouTube wonders with amazing physiques throwing the weights around, doing really fast, explosive reps, half reps, not even full range reps. And, they're muscular marvels. But for every guy that does a training like that, there's like 1,000 guys that have crashed and burned, got his joints injured, micro trauma to the shoulder, osteoarthritis in the hips and the knees and elbows and shoulders. And I'm saying, why not just slow it down? Stop being concerned about how many reps and how much weight. Go for time under load and just use a really safe, sane, sensible way of training. Jiu-jitsu can be traumatic enough. You don't need to make your workout traumatic on top of that. And, a lot of times you don't feel the damage that you're doing, but you're creating a lot of micro trauma in the body. And over time, it erodes joint health. So a lot of these guys that started young, by the time they're in their 40s, they're done, man. They're just so damaged. I've seen it. So many guys. They'll get to brown belt or whatever, and their backs will be freaking killing them. All sorts of disc problems, hip problems. Young guys, looking at hip or knee replacement surgery. I mean, this is a terrible thing. A lot of that could be prevented by using sensible training methods. I truly believe that, and doing this fast, explosive stuff. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm just saying that it causes a lot of micro trauma over time.
What do you mean by sensible training methods? Are you talking about actually
slow, high tension reps?
Okay. How about
anything faster than 1001, 1002 is using momentum.
Okay.
And that's slow for a lot of guys. A lot of guys go boom, 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 just knocking out. I'll give you an example. I took a client to a gym in London, right? It was like a box, it wasn't CrossFit, but it was like a similar type of gym,
Yeah.
So-called functional training. And I watched this guy do 20 pull-ups, which is pretty impressive, right? 20 pull-ups, but he was really whipping it. Now, he wasn't kipping, but he was using a lot of momentum. And it was about 1 second up, 1 second down. He was yanking his joints pretty good. But he was a built dude. And, figure 1 second on the positive, 1 second on the negative. That's 2 seconds per rep. It's about the speed he was going. That's about 40 seconds time under load. Well, I had my guy do 4 seconds up, a 2 second hold and really squeeze, to milk the biceps at the top and milk the back, really work the fibers, and then 4 seconds down. That's 10 seconds per rep. My guy did 6 reps. That's 60 seconds time under load. Now we know that time under tension or time under load is one of the single most important factors in strength and hypertrophy. So my guy, even though he only did 6 reps, actually got a much better workout than the guy that whipped out to 20. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And and the guy I was training, it was much safer, way easier. He wasn't yoinking his shoulders, man. We were really taking care because he actually had a shoulder injury. So we were keeping the lats packed, and we were being really careful about when you change from positive to negative at the bottom, it's called a turnaround. The lower turnaround, you turn around. His turnarounds, we were being really careful on the turnarounds, not to create a lot of joint trauma. And at the top turnaround, he was actually holding for a contraction at the top. So his goal was to create muscular fatigue, not to just see how many reps he could do. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The goal was different. The goal was to work the involved muscle structures in a safe way. The guy doing the 20 reps just wanted to, just see how many reps he could do.
He wanted to do 20 pull-ups, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, his thing was the ego. But what does it really mean? The time under tension was greater for the slower reps. The guy was actually on the bar longer, working longer. So he was actually performing more work. You see?
Yeah, and so that, kind of the way I'm hearing it, the time under load would be beneficial for basically anybody. It's a better workout. It's easier on anybody.
And, for a lot of guys that are injured, see, you have two different types of jiu-jitsu guys. You have guys that started really young that have been doing it for years and years and years. And many of them are ravaged by the time they get to the 40s and end up quitting. I've seen it so many times. Neck, back, usually disc problems, but a lot of hips and knees. And a lot of that wasn't even due to the jiu-jitsu. It was this kind of strength training they're doing along with the jiu-jitsu. But it was also the jiu-jitsu, let's face it.
Yeah.
We're basically, how do we play jiu-jitsu? Well, we bend and twist and pressurize each other and wring each other's joints until either you cry out in pain or tap, or you choke each other into unconsciousness. And try to explain that to somebody that doesn't understand what it's about. They look at you like, what? You do what? They think you're insane, right? But they have no idea how much fun that can be, or the mental chess match involved in bringing a person to that position.
Yeah.
But anyway, my point is, some people start from an early age. They play this really tough game, and they get themselves all messed up and screwed up, and then they're done. It's just the way they train. They go after each other like wild dogs. Then you have the other group that started really late in life. They just got attracted to it. And, a lot of them are having like a little midlife crisis, or they're just bored and they're just looking for something to do. And they think, I might try this jiu-jitsu stuff. So they come in a little bit later, like maybe in their 40s or 50s. And initially they'll get great, results from jiu-jitsu from a fitness point of view. But that will soon go away if they too train like these younger guys. If they're always making every practice like a match and using power, and a lot of clubs, I'm sure you've visited some, they basically train like a pack of wild dogs,
Yeah.
And if you're visiting and you're not part of their group, they'll try to make you, they try to prove that your jiu-jitsu sucks, basically. Look how better we are than you.
Yeah.
That's a common thing in jiu-jitsu. You get that little rivalry thing going. Oh, you're not from our group? Oh, you don't train with our group? Well, our master is so-and-so. And then they try to prove, just how crappy your jiu-jitsu is and how great theirs is.
I want to.
You'll never win in that game, by the way.
Yeah. Has that?
But did you get my point though?
Yeah.
The idea is, jiu-jitsu is traumatic enough But if you add to it weight training or strength training with poor form or poor technique, you will get away with it for a while. And you may even get good results as far as hypertrophy and a nice, buff physique. But over time, you get that terrible joint erosion and all sorts of disc problems and cartilage problems, osteoarthritis, tendinosis, tendinitis. I mean, all sorts of inflammatory stuff. And, for a lot of guys, it's their only outlet. I mean, it's their real joy. They just can't wait to get out of work and get to the club. But the problem is they want to do it too often. That's the other mistake. They train too often, too hard, too often. And they end up with overuse injuries, trauma, inflammation, And so it's really important that you get those rest days in between. You've got to recuperate. The magic of training doesn't happen training. The magic happens in between the training during rest. And if you're short-changing the rest, you are going to really compromise your results and probably end up in a lot of pain. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No,
You've been trying to ask me a question for like 3 minutes, and I keep going on and on. Sorry.
I don't even know where to go because there's so many things I want to ask you that there's a follow-up here.
Keep asking, man. I'm here.
A quick you said you get that kind of the wolf mentality of some gyms. They want to really prove themselves to you and really make sure that that they're the best or they're just better. Has that changed over the years? Is that are most jiu-jitsu gyms more welcoming to strangers and guests than they were 10 years ago, or is that still pretty much the way it's been?
It's still pretty much the way it is. Remember, there's a lot of people that jiu-jitsu is still new. Like you go to China, where Brazilian jiu-jitsu is kind of new.
Yeah.
They're still very competitive over there, wanting to prove. And plus, because it is a new martial art, they get a lot of doubters and naysayers. So there's that element in it.
Okay.
But it all depends. It really goes back to the instructor, the professor, the teacher. I guarantee if you go to the Gracie Academy, where Henner, Gracie, Hira, and Gracie are running the show, you will not run into that at all.
Yeah.
They're the really nice training. And there's other schools around the nation, where when you go in, you're respected, you're treated well as a guest. I mean, when I was an instructor, I was always welcoming to any stranger. I wanted them to join. I didn't want to beat them up so that they would go away.
Yeah.
It was a potential customer. Now, if the guy came in and he was a real cocky kind of guy and real arrogant, there would be the temptation to maybe teach the guy a bit of a lesson. But if he was a decent person and he was just coming in and he wanted to get a nice little workout and get a good sweat, a nice roll, far be it from me to give the guy anything other than just a fantastic experience. And I'd even go out of my way to make sure he got good, safe training partners. But if the guy came across like a bit of a prick, well, he was going to get some really tough guys. I would put some of my monsters against that guy. And every gym has their monsters, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Your designated hitman. Well, he would have a little meeting with one of the hitmen for sure. So to your listeners out there, when you go to a strange gym, comport yourself with the utmost humility and be very deferential to the instructor. Ask permission to come on the mat. Ask permission to leave the mat. Be really respectful of the guys. I even recommend, especially if you're a lower rank, go ahead and tap a bunch of times. Let yourself be tapped. Let the guys catch you. And then they don't feel threatened anymore. And then as you get to know these people, then you can start to play a little bit more of your game. But don't play your A game right out. Don't go after people. Go ahead. Don't be so egotistical. It's just a good way to calm the situation down, especially if you're like a blue belt, or definitely if you're a white belt. Don't go in there all guns blazing and try to make a show. You're not going to win that situation, and you may get hurt. So go in there and just be really calm and easygoing, and you'll have a good time. People will actually like you as a result of it. And then as they get to know you and you start to advance your game a little bit, but at that point they will have accepted you,
Yeah. You don't have to I don't know if hold back is the right term that when I travel, but I, make sure we're having fun. And one of the things I do a lot of times is I'll just kind of give them side control and see what they do. And now they, in my mind anyway, they think, okay, he's not trying to kill me. We're just grappling here. Because when you do travel, especially like if you're a blue belt, all those other blue belts want to kind of see how they stack up against this other blue belt. And so it does become exhausting. Even if they're all nice people, they're all giving themselves a little mini test. And that test is you. And as you go from round to round to round, it adds up. And they're watching.
Yeah, they're treating it like a match, like a contest. And you may be tired. You may have jet lag. You may not be feeling so good. Maybe you didn't get your normal coffee. Traveling can be really exhausting. And the other thing too, especially for your older guys, like, I'm 64, but I look pretty young for my age.
I'd agree,
a lot of people they mistake me for being younger. And, they don't see, like, they just see, a black belt, 5th degree black belt. They're thinking, oh, well, this guy's a black belt. When I was a blue belt, I thought black belts walked on water. But, it's just simply not true. And, sometimes you have a target on your back. If you're like a purple belt with a couple of degrees, brown, black belt to a strange school, you got to be really careful because guys kind of come gunning for you. And they just make this assumption that because you're a black belt, you're like, bulletproof or something. I know I certainly had that concept. I remember, Royce one time really admonishing me for going so hard. And, I used to just be really rough. And, man, one time he really took me to task for it and pretty much kicked my butt for 10 minutes straight. Just crushed me. He says, how's that feel? He says, that's the way you wrestle, especially these other guys. You like it? You think anyone's going to come back if you train like that? He says, you try that with me, I'm going to teach you a lesson. And it was like, wow. My feelings were so hurt because I thought the guy was invincible. You know what I mean? It was really funny. I was like, at those days, I had wrestler jits, coming from an NCAA wrestling background. I wrestled Division I program. I was a pretty decent wrestler. And, I'm grabbing at Royce, like with a lot of just kind of rude gripping, like judo guys do this too sometimes. And he says, wait, stop. He says, this is the gi. This is my skin. This is cloth. And this is skin. Cloth doesn't hurt, but my skin hurts. So stop grabbing my skin. He said, you do it again, and there's going to be some problems. And I was like, whoa.
You don't want problems.
I just didn't even realize what I was doing. I was like a bull in a china shop. I didn't even know what I didn't know. I was like a blue belt. And, but then I was grinding heads with him. Wrestlers grind heads. I don't know why. You kind of put your forehead in there. He says, stop. He says, see my face? It looks pretty good. Look at your ears. They're all cauliflower.
Yeah.
You see, it's unnecessary. Why are you grinding your head? It's just so unnecessary. He says, don't do it again. And then at that point, then he just lost his patience. And he says, okay, these next 10 minutes are going to be the most terrifying of your life. And he looked up at the clock. It was like 10 minutes left in our private lesson. So they're going to be the most terrifying of your life. And I swear to God, he just would squeeze me. And he wouldn't let me tap either. He'd just take me to the breaking point of chokes. And he just put me in every just nasty position you can think of and just wrung me out. As a matter of fact, it was such a beating and he never struck me. He just used jiu-jitsu. I actually, my immune system broke down. I got the flu the next day.
Wow.
But it was such a lesson because he's basically showing me what I was doing to other guys.
Yeah.
And I was just unconscious. But see, so many of these younger guys, these newer guys, they don't realize that they're using power and strength and doing unnecessary rude stuff. They just don't get it. And it's up to the senior members of the school or the club to teach these young guys. There is a decorum. It is unnecessary. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to use all this, crazy power and herky-jerky movements and spaz out and, all that excessive gripping and grabbing and grinding foreheads and, digging your elbows in people's thighs to break the guard. This it's not fun. takes all the fun out of it. It's not a fight. It's supposed to be chess. And your career won't last long if you train like that. And some guys, every time they go to practice, it's like a freaking tournament. And they're not going to last long. You just can't sustain that. It's unsustainable. You cannot. You will break down. Your body will break down. You'll start to get overuse injuries. You'll develop all sorts of muscle imbalances. And, before long, you just have to quit. You'll have to quit the thing that you like doing most. But it's unnecessary. You can continue. Like I said, I still get in the mat. I wrestled with my black belt Scott today out in the sand on the beach. It was so much fun. We played. When I go to Maui Jiu-Jitsu, by the way, I recommend Maui Jiu-Jitsu and Luis Heredia. One of the greatest teachers ever. One of the most chill jiu-jitsu schools you'll ever go. His head instructor, Joel, and he has another black belt who actually happens to be my web guy, Chris Crook. Oh, so much fun to train with those guys. They are technicians and tricky, and it's so much fun to play chess with those guys. And that's the kind of school that I like to go to. That's the kind of atmosphere that I like, It's really, and they have the killers, but, you very quickly learn which guys to train with, which guys not to train with, which guys will go hard, which guys like to play.
Yeah, it sounds like you're having a great time with your training. Looking back, it takes a wise instructor or training partner to tell you, hey, you're really roughing me up for no reason. Not that because you don't also want to say I can't take that, but just say, hey, you're being a little bit rude here with the way you're grappling. Opposed to, I think the way a lot of people do it is they just smash them and don't tell them. Like, this guy needs to get that hard roll.
You need to tell him.
Yeah, you got to tell him.
How are you going to know to alter your behavior? Just doing the same thing back, it's like a parent, using corporal punishment, right? To punish the child. What do you think that child's going to grow up doing? He's going to end up thinking that you punish someone by hitting them, right? It doesn't teach you a lesson. It just, all it does is makes you resentful or fearful. Some guys will take a beating like that from the senior belt, not even know why they're getting the beating. They didn't even know that they're being rude.
Yeah.
They didn't even know that they're using power. They didn't know until, it needs to be explained. But I'm finding that this is left out in a lot of schools. The senior members, it's up to them to tell the junior members, the white belts, the blue belts, even some purple belts. They need to be told. Now, some guys just never get it, no matter how much you tell them. And, for me personally, I just avoid those guys,
Yeah.
It's no fun training with those guys. It's not a street fight.
Yeah.
It's not a street fight.
And
it's meant to be a game. If you're doing it recreational for a game. And, of course, once again, we have a lot of different kinds of jiu-jitsu these days. We have MMA jiu-jitsu, right? Which is a very specific jiu-jitsu for the sport of mixed martial arts. And if you're doing MMA jiu-jitsu, you should be training most of the time with gloves on, because that's how the way you play your sport. So you should be training a mix of punching and, wrestling, obviously, and clinching. And on the ground, you need to wear your gloves. So MMA jiu-jitsu is very specific. Referee is going to break you if there's no action. All you have to do is stall on the bottom to bring the fight back up to the feet. And you need to be pretty damn good at takedowns to put the other guy on the ground. And then, you have your sport jiu-jitsu, which the BJJ is the most well-known. But, there's other organizations out there that are trying to promote different types of rules. I really like, Hicks and Gracie just announced his global federation tournament schedule. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, and here on Gracie, they also have a no time limit. Not a no time limit. I think it's like 20-minute matches or something. No points type deal. Eddie Bravo had his really awesome tournament just recently. So there's a movement towards getting away from these 5-6 minute matches, and this crazy 50-50 berimbolo holding sleeves, all this kind of stuff. There's the people that are trying to get away from this point system and go towards a different type of jiu-jitsu. And then, of course, you have your recreational rollers that are just in it for the pure joy and fun. They could care less about how many points or whether you pass my guard or, 2 points, I got my knee in your belly. It's like, so what?
And that's
so you can submit me.
Yeah, that's the vast majority, I think, of the grappling community. It's just we're here to have fun. We might have came to the mats for a different reason, self-defense or to try to compete or to do different things. But long term, most of us stick around because it's fun and that's where our friends are going to be on the mats.
And the self-defense now is interesting because the Valencia brothers in Miami, they were the last guys to get black belts directly from Master Royce Gracie. They wear navy blue belts out of protest, by the way. They, their Master Royce Gracie believed that the modern sport jiu-jitsu is the anti-jiu-jitsu because of the reliance on power and strength and conditioning. He just called it a form of jacket wrestling, wrestling with jackets on. And he, as a result, started wearing a blue belt. He also didn't like the fact that there was all these guys running around the black belt that didn't even know the slightest thing about street defense. They couldn't even defend themselves in any kind of realistic encounter. And so he felt that was a travesty. And he wore the blue belt. So the Valencia brothers continued that tradition of wearing the navy blue belt. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
But anyway, Royce wears a navy blue belt also as a result. Just kind of to protest a lot of the, black belts out there of dubious, lineage who knows zero self-defense. And if there's any black belts listening, I'm not denigrating your achievements in the sports arena. I'm just saying, why not know the whole art? I mean, it doesn't really take all that much, especially at your level, to learn the basic self-defense. Why not? It can be a dangerous world out there.
Yeah.
And it certainly is a handy thing to know, and you never know. I mean, I avoid confrontations at all costs. I'm very good at running away. But hey, I could defend myself and my loved ones and my family if necessary. I could. I won't want to, but I could, and I would be very effective at it. And the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu self-defense is extremely effective martial art, and it could save someone's life. You never know. I mean, with all this, I fly a lot. You read every day about this crazy shit happening on the airlines, man. I'm ready to jump up and aid the stewardess.
Yeah.
Duct tape a guy to a seat if necessary. But, yeah, so I'm not denigrating, but they're having self-defense tournaments now, which is, I think, so cool. So for people that are, let's say you're a world-famous hand surgeon, and you cannot run the risk of injuring your fingers, or you're an oral surgeon, and you make your living, doing oral surgery on people, or you're a pianist, or a violinist, or you're a sculptor, or a painter, or an artist, and your hands are your living. But that's just one example. But maybe you're just a guy that just can't afford to get injured, doesn't want to get injured. Well, they have these self-defense seminars where you can demonstrate your effectiveness against attackers. And it works. They'll have high-level black belts attack you, and they know exactly what you're doing so they can protect themselves so they don't get hurt, when you do the self-defense. And they'll come at you with a gun or a knife, or they'll grab your throat, or they'll grab the lapels of your jacket, or sneak up behind and grab you around in a bear hug, or grab you in a rear choke. And then you instantly have to counter with the appropriate self-defense technique. And there's a panel of judges that judge you on the effectiveness of your defense. That's so cool, man. That opens up a whole new door for many people that would be a little shy about, going into an arena with 5,000 screaming fans.
Yeah.
I just think it's really cool. And it gives people a chance to showcase the street effectiveness of jiu-jitsu. It can be really good. So,
yeah,
I like it. So Hickson's doing it. The Valencians have been doing it. There's some other people that have been doing it. So I like it. I think it's a great step forward for the jiu-jitsu community. It just gives one more avenue for people to, kind of whet their competitive nature, but in a very safe, kind of controlled manner. Especially good for people that are not super fit and or can't afford injuries, or even an elderly guy. Just I was just thinking the other day, it might be kind of fun to wrestle in one of these tournaments again.
Yeah.
I haven't competed for a while, but I'd have to give up 15 years. The oldest wage group they have is like 50. So. There's a formula for, there's a lot of older Americans now, but Europeans too, getting into the game. And there's a formula that Hiron came up with I thought was just brilliant, because you can't take a 50-year-old guy and compare him to like a 20-year-old guy. There's just no way.
Yeah. It's
completely unfair. No matter how good the guy is at 50, it's still going to be 50-year-old jiu-jitsu, right? So Heron gave the story of one of the instructors who was older. I think he was in his 50s. And he was really kind of disconsolate because some big, strong, young blue buck gave him a really hard time during the sparring. And Heron says to this guy, well, you shouldn't be feeling bad at all. The guy was like, 30 pounds heavier and 30 years younger. That for every 10 pounds in every 10 years, that's like a belt. So even if the guy was like a white belt, but he's like 30 pounds heavier than you and 30 years younger, it's almost as if you're facing a black belt. Now he may not have the skill level of a black belt, but with his size and his strength and his youth and his athleticism and all that, it's going to balance out your skill sets. In other words, you still, if you can hold your own, that's a huge tribute to jiu-jitsu. That's an amazing thing. That you can have a guy that's 30 years younger and 30 pounds heavier, and you can just go even with the guy. What other martial art can you do that with?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't, there aren't any that I know of.
Okay, maybe some punches and kickers could out-slick a guy that doesn't have any training at all. But, for the most part, though, size and strength do matter. In the animal kingdom, especially, the bigger, stronger animal, is the one that wins. The one that gets the mate, Yeah. But in the jiu-jitsu world, size and strength matter. We're realists. We know that. A big, strong guy can undo a lot of your technique. But if you're an older guy, don't think about beating these kids. Just think about going even and not getting caught. That's a huge victory into itself. And if you do trick a younger guy and you catch him, wow, that's huge. I don't know too many martial arts like that would allow a smaller, weaker, guy, an older person that could still hang in there with young guys. I just don't know any other martial art like it.
Yeah.
Certainly not kicking and punching.
Well, you always, and I'm not skilled at all with kicking and punching, but you always get that chance of getting hit. And if you're able to get into a good position, and we're just grappling, you're not going to take that damage to your body or your brain just at one instant where you dropped your left hand a little bit and you got clocked with it.
And it hurts a lot, to get hit. And, jiu-jitsu, you can always tap.
Yeah.
You might get home sore, you can get stiff, and you might get, an injury here and there. You can't play a sport like jiu-jitsu and not expect to get hurt.
Yeah.
That's pretty unrealistic. You're going to get hurt. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. But you try to minimize that. And you minimize that through your training.
Yeah.
Your supplementary training. By strengthening all your major joints and muscles and strengthen the connective tissue and the tendons and so forth, you can lessen your chance of being hurt. That's why I say your training should be very, very safe, your supplemental training. And, it's not always about using the muscles that you use. A lot of times, a good supplementary training is using all the muscles you don't use to create balance in the joint. I noticed that many jiu-jitsu guys have forward head and kyphosis. You know what I mean by forward head? the head kind of sticks forward when they stand up and their upper back is rounded. You know, like when they enter the room, their head enters like 2 seconds before the rest of their body. You want to avoid that. So, yeah, posture drills, and anything that keeps the spine mobile. You need plenty of spinal extension because in jiu-jitsu, especially people that play a lot of guard, the spine is in forward flexion all the time, which can wreak hell on the vertebrae and the discs. You cannot allow people to stack you up. If you have an omoplata, a triangle, an arm lock, or even just someone using a stack pass to pass your guard, let the guy pass.
Yes.
Let go of the freaking hold.
Yeah.
Don't be an idiot and get jacked up on your neck out of stubbornness. I can't tell you how many slipped disc and injured spine injuries. And it may not happen, until, sometimes it's not like this acute injury, but it's like a buildup over time where your back just keeps getting sorer and sorer and sore. So eventually you're just in so much pain you can barely move. But with your supplementary training, you can make up for a lot of the movements that you do in jiu-jitsu. Sometimes you need to do counter movements. So I'm a big fan of extension of the spine, spinal extension, neck extension, thoracic and lumbar mobility drills, and so forth. You know, you got to stretch out those hip flexors. You got to make sure the hip flexors aren't overly tight. A lot of jiu-jitsu guys, their glutes are very almost dysfunctional. Really, it's almost like they suffer a form of gluteal amnesia because you don't use your butt a lot.
Huh.
But it's the biggest. Not in jiu-jitsu unless you're doing a lot of throws and takedowns, of course. But you definitely need to do some glute training to help relieve pressure on the back and to balance out those hip flexors and keep a balance of your back, hamstrings, hip flexors, and adductors, so that you have a good balance of strength. And I noticed that for a lot of jiu-jitsu guys suffering back pain, their glutes aren't firing. They don't use their butt, so they need to learn how to use their butt. I like the hip thrust exercise and hinging style deadlifts. Really excellent for that type of thing.
Yeah.
Rubber band, good mornings. Full squats. If you're really strong, one-legged pistol squats could be a really good balance for that kind of stuff.
Huh. Hadn't really thought that the butt wasn't really getting used while you're grappling, but you got to get your rear in gear, and like you said, sometimes
that whole posterior chain it isn't developed like the anterior chain. So most guys have pretty strong abs and hip flexors and adductors, but they're abductors, the abductors, the glutes, the rectus spinae muscles, and hamstrings are a lot of times not well balanced with the rest of the core, and so it's really important. Rear shoulders, the rhomboids in the upper spine, the neck. A lot of times, a lot of guys neglect neck training. Really important to keep your neck nice and strong.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take that much time. It really doesn't. You're not training to be a bodybuilder. You're not trained to be a powerlifter. So you don't need a lot of sets. You don't need a lot of even heavy weight. You need a moderate weight and, 1 or 2 good sets really done to exhaustion. It's good. And you don't even need to train that often. I have a lot of guys, that hit the gym a lot, with jiu-jitsu. They're going to the academy a lot. They're doing fine with 1 workout a week, 1 strength training workout a week. And if you're going to the academy several times a week, you probably this is going to sound like heresy to some guys, but like 2 weekly trainings would be the max. You're just going to burn out and get really tired. You're just going to overtrain. And in many cases, even once a week is enough. That's not to say that you don't warm up and do mobility drills and stuff every day. And you can, if you like yoga and you like to stretch out and stuff, you can do that every single day. But you don't need to go into the gym a lot. You're not a strength specialist. You're not a strength athlete. You're just trying to balance out the body and you know,
become a technical athlete.
And remember, jiu-jitsu is a form of strength training. It's a form of resistance training. So every day is a strength training. Every day you go into jiu-jitsu, you're using your muscles against resistance. And a lot of jiu-jitsu guys really over grip. They just grip so much. A fantastic exercise is placing a rubber band around the fingernails and opening the fingers out and extending the wrist back. That relieves a lot of pain in the fingers and the wrist and so forth. So just a fantastic drill. Reverse wrist curls, where you're working the top part of the forearms instead of the flexors, can really help balance out those elbows and fingers and wrists. So I see a lot of guys with a lot of chronic inflammation and pain from overusing their hands. Just gripping too much. Really good jiu-jitsu guys, they don't grip all the time. They don't rely on their grips that much. Like Solo used to say, I don't rely on my grips. My no-gi game is the same as my gi game. He used to have the saying, it's not the grips, it's the hips. It's all about hip control and where you're controlling your opponent's hips and keeping your hips free. Trying to over grip and grab and hold, that's not particularly good jiu-jitsu. But be that as it may, it's going to run havoc with your fingers. So many guys have arthritis in their hands and their wrists and their fingers. Even guys in their 30s are always suffering terrible inflammatory issues. So don't grip so much. You don't need to. Some of the best players I ever met, they don't depend on grips. Yeah. They'll open palm it a lot. They will grip, but it's not. Their game isn't dependent on grips.
Yeah.
Some guys just latch on and they just hang off the gear lock, and then their hands are fried, and they wonder why their fingers are killing them.
Yeah. You only get two hands, and you see somebody load up with their foot ready to kick your grip out. Let it go. I mean, let it
go, idiot. Their foot is stronger than your hand.
And even if
you're going to beat your arm.
Even if your hand, if you maintain the grip, you've still dumped a ton of energy into your hand and your fingers, and that adds up over time. Like you're saying, you could be in your 30s and have hand problems.
And that's the problem. You say that they over rely on their grips, but it's unnecessary.
Yeah. Move on. While he's kicking that leg, drag the leg and do a leg. There's a lot of different options to do.
Change up, man. You got to be really flow. That's the flow, right? The flow we talk about in jiu-jitsu. But, a lot of the younger guys, they don't have the flow yet. But, hopefully by listening to this podcast and other podcasts like it, they'll start to become more aware that, there's a higher level game that you can play. You don't have to just latch onto those sleeves or those pant legs or whatever, or grab that collar. There's ways that you can do it without, ruining your hands over time.
And of course, if you're somebody who grips, and doesn't, and just refuses to let go until it's actually destroyed, you're going to have a little bit of a setback in your training process, and you might not have the same results you've had rolling with the same, blue belt or pro belt. You might do a little worse for a little while, but in the long run, you're going to be on the mat longer, and you're gonna have more success with your grappling, and you'll find ways around it.
Well, it's like anytime you go to a seminar, right, or a workshop or whatever, and you're trying to incorporate new techniques in your game. Well, you're not real good at that at first, and your game suffers. Sometimes you get worse before you get better, which is, as you said, so your game will go down. So anytime you start to change or play with new ideas and new things, expect it to backfire, because you won't have the timing and the precision and so forth. But, keep working on it, and it'll get better and better and better. But you'll actually end up being much healthier for it in the long run. Because after all, health is number one. Listen, no one ever said that competition jiu-jitsu is healthy. As a matter of fact, as soon as you take any activity and you put a competitive element to it, a lot of the health benefit just goes right out the window. Pretty much.
That's a quote right there that just says so much about what happens to athletes, what happens to competitors, and what happens to people who incorporate fitness into a lifestyle and enjoy many years of fitness and healthy living, about competing, and how sometimes that will take it out of the realm of being healthy.
And I'm not telling guys, don't compete don't do anything. I certainly did. I'm just saying, keep it in perspective and realize, what does it really mean in the realm of life? Is that blue belt gold medal really going to mean that much in 20 or 30 years? Is it worth sacrificing your health for?
Yeah.
Even a black belt world champ is quickly forgotten within 5 years.
Yeah, and all the sacrifices and hard work that they did. It's an amazing accomplishment, but there's another world champ next year. And
exactly. And there's always going to be somebody younger, stronger, and no matter how good you are, there's always someone better. There's always going to be someone better, no matter how good you are. You're eventually going to be beaten, and you're eventually going to lose, and there's always going to be somebody better.
But
you got to get over yourself.
Yeah. But in those 5 years when they pass, you're still you. you still have your body, you still have your health, and those are things that are definitely important to you. So you may feel like the accomplishments of the past may not be so easy to relive or reminisce, or put them away a little bit. But your health is something that is really important. Another thing that we didn't talk about the last time I had you on was just a healthy diet and getting the right foods and having a good diet. I definitely want to bring that up with you.
Well, there's constant diet wars, and we were talking before the podcast started. We were laughing that diet is actually more emotional with people than actual politics and religion in many cases. And I think the reason why is it's very confusing out there with a lot of. They talk about fake news, so much these days. There's a lot of misinformation.
Yeah.
A lot of this misinformation is designed to sell you worthless supplements and worthless, superfoods and all this kind of stuff. It's all a money-making scheme. There are no such thing as superfoods, by the way. I remember where acai, the Brazilian fruit, was like the big rage, And if you really look at the nutritional breakdown, the good old U.S. plum that you find in, the East Coast U.S., plain old good, is about the same nutritional profile as acai. Not a whole lot different. Yet people will pay a lot of money for expensive pills and herbs and things like that. So there's no magic bullets. And, you'll have everything from the Mediterranean diet to the paleo diet to the macrobiotic diet to the ketogenic diet, I think we all can agree we need calories. we need water. We need fats and proteins. Some people argue that you don't actually even need carbs, but let's say, most people enjoy getting some carbs in their diet. And we also know that if you're fat, you're eating too much. Simple as that. And, then there's certain groups pushing certain diets, and you always got to look, follow the money. They'll demonize certain food groups. Oh, the glutens are Satan, or the dairy is the devil. But you look at these diets and who's proposing them, who's saying it, why are they saying it? Is there money involved? Is there supplements involved? And you damn well better believe when there's money and supplements involved, you can pretty much just completely turn your mind off to all that kind of nonsense. Because in reality, it doesn't have to be that complex. If you're basing the majority of your food on fresh fruits in season and fresh vegetables, if you're getting a good leafy green salad every day, along with some cooked veggies, and you're getting some fruits every single day in your diet, you're well on your way to have a good balanced diet. And and you do not need an excessive amount of protein. You really, truly do not. I think the overeating of protein has created a lot of inflammatory response in people. And this idea that you need to be eating every couple hours, that's insane. You're in a chronic state of digestion all the time. If you think about human body and how we work, we're basically digestive machines. We're just one big digestive machine. And you want to make sure that you get plenty of time between meals that you can thoroughly digest and assimilate all the nutrients that you're taking in. And if you're overcrowding your nutrition and eating a lot of stuff in one meal, I see these guys do these smoothie bombs. They have like freaking 12 ingredients in their smoothies, you know? And they're throwing this damn kale into everything. That's crazy. You know, kale is certainly can be nutritious, but it's virtually indigestible in the raw state. You cannot digest it, not well at all. Huh. It's an abdominal irritant. It can only be digested when it's cooked, thoroughly cooked and broken down. And even then, you know, I don't know who the kale lobbyists were that sold everyone on kale, but you know, there's plenty of other vegetables out there. Just everybody's nutritious as kale. But you'll see people, you know, throwing everything but the kitchen sink into their blender bombs in the morning. If you're putting more than 3 ingredients into your smoothie, it's what I call crowded nutrition. You can't digest all that. You know, every time you start mixing a lot of stuff in one meal, your digestion becomes overburdened. And this is what causes a lot of the inflammatory response in people. You get these partially digested protein molecules crossing the gut membrane, going into the bloodstream, and this creates this whole inflammatory response in your body. And, you know, this can lead to, you know, chronic joint pains and problems. So just simplify your meals. I follow something similar to the Gracie diet. I follow a food combining diet. I follow the work of Dr. John Tilden, who was a turn-of-the-century American physician who treated people with diet and fasting. I'm a big believer that if you don't feel good, this is your body's signal to stop eating. Trying to eat when you feel sick is crazy. You don't find animals in nature eating when they're sick. Just stop eating. Just drink water, lie in a darkened room, relax, let your body rest. If you absolutely can't rest in bed, okay, go to like just, you know, some fresh raw fruits. Or if you have a juicer, you know, juice some fruits and do like a little juice fast. For some people, it's a little easier. But this idea of, you know, attempting to eat when you're sick is crazy. And Tilden created some food combining principles I think are really, really good. And it's ironic because, you know, I'm a big fan of Ayurveda. And Ayurvedic medical doctors 5,000 years ago had very similar ideas about food and eating. It's what forms the basis of the yoga philosophy. And the Tilden, echoing the Ayurvedic physicians, felt that you should keep protein and starches separately, and you should make the base of your diet, like I said, fruits and vegetables, and get a good raw vegetable salad in you every day along with your protein, and keep the starches separate. Starches being, you know, any kind of grain, potatoes, you know, any kind of bread, cereals, crackers, this type of stuff. You know, just keep it separate. And if you're fat, you don't need carbohydrate. You know, let your body dip into the fat source. So cut the starches for a couple of months. You'd be amazed how you lean out. Get your carbs from fruit and vegetables. You'll be fine. I've had so many people just drop tons of weight just doing this simple process. So for me, the other thing too is this American thing of breakfast. You know, we've been sold a bill of goods about breakfast. Breakfast only became popular within the last 100 years, and it was the product of the cereal companies.
Yeah,
you know, they needed a market for the grain, so they lobbied and they started selling Americans an idea of a breakfast with cereal grains for breakfast. But, you know, in Ayurveda medicine, they feel 2 meals a day. Your first meal around midday, your second meal around sunset. I've been following that for quite a while.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of different versions. As you perhaps have heard of intermittent fasting. Martin Birkin, the Swedish fitness model and bodybuilder, strength athlete, he's had unbelievable results with intermittent fasting. Basically, you just push your first meal back.
Okay.
You know, of course, Ori Hofmeckler with the Warrior Diet, similar thing. he just has people snacking fruits and then has one big chief meal a day. I like to divide my meal into two meals, a chief meal and like usually between 11 and 12. Depends when I get up. If I get up at 5 a.m., which I do often, I'll have my chief meal around 11. If I get up a little bit later, I might push it back to 12 or even 1. And then 5 hours later, I'll have my second meal. So today I had chicken souvlaki on a skewer because I'm in Greece. It's fantastic. Big chunks of chicken with vegetables on a big skewer. The skewer was loaded, man. I couldn't even eat it all. And I had a Greek salad without the cheese. I just had a couple olives and tomatoes and cucumbers and leaf lettuce, all picked out of the guy's garden, by the way, grown right here on the island. Unbelievable. It's all full of the fruits and vegetables are full of solar goodness. Just fantastic. And then I had this beet salad made with beets grown in his own garden. Just absolutely delicious. Beet greens. So I had beets, chicken, and a salad. That was it. And then after I get off the phone, about 30 minutes or so maybe from now, I'm going to have my second meal. I'm going to have some yogurt. I tolerate dairy quite well. I'm going to have some homemade Greek yogurt made right here at the hotel.
That's awesome.
And I'm going to have it with natural raw honey. They actually have a beehive up here. And this honey actually has a honeycomb in it. You know, honey was considered a medicine. It's almost medicinal. You can put honey in an open wound, and it works as an antibiotic. And this kind of raw honey. Now, cooked honey is virtually like just eating table sugar. You know, it's a poison. But raw honey with all the enzymes and all the goodness in it. So I'll have the yogurt with the honey. And then I'm going to have these apricots and plums that grow right off the trees. In fact, they're falling right down by my balcony. They have these trees here just loaded with all this fruit, full of solar energy, you know, tree ripened. So I'm going to have some apricots and plums with the honey yogurt. And that's it. That's my whole caloric intake. Sometimes, if I get a little hungry or I feel, I'll cut up some oranges or some lemons and suck the lemons or eat the oranges as like a little pre-workout fuel. And I like to take baking soda in water. You know, plain old Arm & Hammer baking soda, a teaspoon. Very alkalizing to the blood. It helps oxygenation of the tissues. It helps CO2 tolerance. A lot of people overbreathe, and they're very sensitive to CO2 buildup. That's what makes you tired and gasp and gasp for air. And I'll have that before a workout sometimes, and it kind of blunts the appetite. Very alkalizing to the body. Some people swear by apple cider vinegar as an alkalizing agent, but I find the baking soda, just a teaspoon of water when I get up. Now, I do drink coffee, by the way. I drink really delicious, good coffee, you know. I get best beans. We have our own little espresso press, you know. We'll get fresh ground organic beans. And I do like to drink my coffee. It is one of the few concessions. Some people, you know, feel that the caffeine and so forth and some of the irritating compounds in coffee aren't good for you. But, you know, it's one of those things. I do like that little coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
But, you know, I have gone off coffee. A good substitute if you're looking to get off coffee, if you feel like you're overdoing it. By the way, I only have it in the morning. You know, I'll have like a couple cups and I'm good to go for the rest of the day. But you could use yerba mate or in Brazil they call it machi, M-A-T-E, with that little mark above the E, machi. They say T-E is chi, or yerba mate. It's a Brazilian herb. It grows in the jungle. It has caffeine-like substance, but it's not as irritating compound as coffee. It's not quite as acidic. By the way, when I drink my coffee, I'll have it with some kind of fat, either some heavy cream, or I will have it with. Occasionally, when I'm in Hawaii, I'll actually have it with coconut water, sweeten it.
Yeah.
As a pre workout fuel, coffee with coconut water. Oh, fantastic! It's nice and sweet. It's really tasty. I might put like a tablespoon of coconut cream in there, you know, just to give a little fattiness in there. Yeah, so I don't drink. I don't like alcohol of any type. Certainly, science has shown that like one drink, a glass of wine or a beer, can actually have some health benefits. I think that's been proven. I just don't like it personally. I never did it. Just never really enjoyed it. But certainly you can do it healthfully. Now, if you're on a fat loss program and you're really trying to lose weight, you should just cut the alcohol for a while. Alcohol basically shuts down the fat burning process and makes it really hard for your body to access stored body fat. The alcohol does. So I recommend if you are obese or really overweight and trying to lose weight, just cut the alcohol for a couple months. If you can't cut it for a couple months, then you got a serious alcohol problem, you know?
Yeah.
You should be able to give up anything. I mean, if someone says, hey, go off the coffee for 3 months, I could do it. You know? I mean, no one's going to die for a few months. So,
you said a lot of stuff there. I'm trying to comprehend it all. So you really don't eat a breakfast. You drink a coffee with some fat in it, but there's no actual breakfast with that. And then you eat
I mean, you can call it a breakfast because there is some calories involved.
Yeah.
You know, it's not complete fasting.
And you're exercising.
I can't claim, you know, and then I go out and I exercise.
Okay.
In a semi-fasted state. You know, I might have not even, I don't know, like 100 calories maybe in the coffee.
Is that important to have some intake before you exercise?
No, not at all. I like to exercise in a fasted state. It's especially good for older men. There's some scientific evidence to indicate that it's especially good for your hormonal profiles, especially for guys that are over 60 like my age. But then, you know, it's good to get a good meal and a good protein meal afterwards. That's why I like to time my workout so I get my chief meal then after the workout. Okay. I've engineered my life that I can pretty much work my own schedule except when I'm teaching seminars or whatever. You know, I engineer my life so that I make my living online, what I call a freedom business. I do online personal training, diet programs, fat loss programs, conditioning programs for all walks of life. Just, you know, I work with people from bankers, lawyers, housewives, elderly people, young guys. It doesn't matter. You know. One other thing I would like to point out about nutrition, this is largely overlooked, chewing your food. I see so many young guys literally just bolt their food down. And, you know, you got to chew the food up and take your time and masticate. You'd be amazed at how much less you eat when you really sit there and thoroughly chew the food and mix the saliva. Digestion starts in the mouth. And so it's really important to chew that food so you can get those nutrients. You start breaking it down. Now, carbohydrate digestion literally starts in the mouth. So any kind of carbohydrate like fruits or vegetables, if you are having any kind of grain product, you got to chew that stuff and really thoroughly mix it. Mix it, you know, chew it almost to water. Even when you're drinking a smoothie, swish it around in your mouth and thoroughly mix it with saliva. Before, and if it's cold, make sure that it's really warm before you swallow it, because you can really impair your digestion by eating too fast, big chunks of food. It makes it very difficult for your body to do its job and assimilate and break those nutrients down. And what you'll find is your satiety levels will be way higher. You'll find yourself just eating less. Because, you know, when you bolt your food down, the apostat, that regulatory mechanism in your brain that tells you when you've had enough food, it doesn't catch up. By the time it says, okay, I've had enough, you're bloated, man. You've just eaten way too much. But if you take your time, you put your fork or spoon down between bites, you chew it up, you swallow it. First of all, it's more enjoyable. You get a chance to really savor and enjoy the food. But you give a chance for your brain, there's, you know, that little control mechanism in the brain. It gives it a chance to tell you that you're full. But if you bolt the food down, you already have it down before the brain mechanism kicks in. And by that time, it's like, oh, my tummy, God, why did I eat all that? You know? So chewing is really important.
Yeah, it's great having you back on the show. This is so much fun. I'm learning a ton. I can't believe we didn't really talk about diet last time. Reflecting back, you know, in my childhood, you always hear, or I always heard, the most important meal of the day is breakfast. And then what you're saying now is that's just marketing. They're just wanting to sell you breakfast food and cereal and that sort of thing, and it all makes sense.
That was a fairly recent marketing thing too, by the way. That was not a tradition, you know. That started the grain lobbies really lobbied, but people for centuries ate very, very little for breakfast, if anything at all. You know, it was a very light little cursory meal. And your body is getting rid of metabolic waste from the night before. And that it's at its peak operation, you know, this getting rid of the metabolic waste. Your elimination system is in full gear. You know, your lymphatic system, you're breathing out a lot of carbon dioxide, your kidney, your liver, your bowels, you know, everything's being pushed out. And when you have a big meal first thing in the morning, you completely disrupt that elimination process. So you can literally create a toxic environment in your body by this insistence of just, you know, filling your pie hole constantly, all the time. Especially these guys that eat every couple of hours. By the way, a really good test of how fit you are, you know, people like fitness tests. How many hours can you go without eating? That's a very good test of overall health and fitness. A really fit guy can go a whole day and work a hard day's work without eating at all. If you can't do that, then you're sick. You're not fit at all. You should be able to go and miss a meal or 2 meals or even a day of meals and not suffer too much. If you suffer a lot and you get headaches and you get shaky and you have this blood sugar thing going on, you're a sick individual. You do not have good, solid health. And it predisposes you to getting ill. That means your immune system is impaired as well. It's a good test.
Wow.
I do fast. I fast all the time. So it's a good test for yourself. But the good news is, even if you're not particularly good, you within just a few months can really make great increases that way and really bring it back very quickly.
I'll have to try that. That's the one fitness test I could do without getting all sweaty.
Yeah, you just drink water and such.
Yeah,
and just go without eating for a day. It won't hurt you. It's good for you. Huh. You know, a lot of people in the United States in particular panic at the least little tummy rumbling, and they assume that it's biologic hunger. It's not. Most people in the United States have never actually experienced true biological hunger. You know? What they have is what they call habit hunger. Oh, it's 12 o'clock noon when I normally fill my pie hole with lunch, right? Oh, my tummy's rumbling. Oh, my God, I'm getting so weak. I got to eat. Oh, I'm getting blood sugar. I'm getting a headache. You know, it's all this nonsense. A lot of it's emotionalism. But a lot of it is just out of habit. Drink a big glass of water and forget about it. You'll be fine. And people don't get it. By the way, you know, I study these things. I give seminars all over the world. Russia, China, the EU, the UK, Australia. I mean, literally all over the world. I've been to, you know, Mexico, Canada. And, you know, I see populations. The United States now leads the world in obesity. We are the fattest nation on earth. U.S. women are the fattest population on earth. U.S. women lead the world. And it's amazing to see some of these other countries, the lean, good-looking people, particularly in the Slavic countries, the Baltic countries, people look fantastic. Poland, Russia, they look great, man. But there are other countries catching up. The UK is catching up quick. The EU, Germany is getting pretty fat, but nothing like you see in the States. It's literally cultural shock when I come back to JFK or Newark or Atlanta, and I'm going through customs and I look around the line. It's like, oh my God, this is unbelievable, and it's just ironic. You know, there are a lot of countries where people are going without, and you know, there are places where people are literally starving to death. I just think it's so ironic that in the United States, people are eating themselves to death, you know?
Yeah.
Another way to look at it, people are all screaming about Donald Trump and the global warming and natural resources and all this stuff, right? Climate change. But think about how negatively you affect climate change when you are an overconsumer, right? If you're fat, that means you're eating more than your fair share of the natural resources in the universe. You are eating more than you need. That means you're overconsuming. What does that say about the environment? That's not a good thing.
Yeah.
That means you're a greedy person. Now, you may be unconsciously greedy and not knowing it. It may be some kind of emotional trauma or something that predisposes you to overeating. But if you think about it, you're eating more than your fair share, which means that someone else may not be getting a share. So, I mean, it's just something to think about, you know. People always give into charities and things. I think the best thing they could do is stop eating so much. So there's a little bit more left over for the rest of the world.
And live a little healthier at the same time.
And be healthy at the same time. That's not to say that it would ever be distributed there anyway. You know?
Yeah, that's true.
But it is an interesting point.
Yeah.
People, you know, they get into the environment and energy. If you're fat, you're using more than your fair share. You're eating so much that your body is now storing this energy away in the form of fat cells, which means that you are way over consuming. And Americans are unbelievable consumers. We all overconsume everything. Every kind of energy, America tops the charts of every other country in the world, our energy consumption. That's directly related to global warming, by the way.
Yeah, and I can see how you like the diet stuff could be. Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it, and maybe that could be somewhat motivating for somebody to clean up their diet and eat a little bit less or healthier.
Well, for no other reason, you know, do it for the rest of, you know, if you're a family man or, you know, a family person, do it for your family, for goodness sake, you know, because healthcare costs are ridiculous. And, you know, when you're an obese person, man, you are putting a huge drag on healthcare, because obesity is pretty much linked to just about virtually every disease on the planet, every malady. So,
yeah. Steve, you briefly mentioned. You going?
Yeah, I gotta go, man.
Okay.
I got another thing happening.
Time flies. How could somebody get a hold of you or meet?
Go to the website
maxwellsc.com.
Maxwellsc.com. I have a lot of anti-aging. Of course, you know, I hate to use that term; it's so trite. Anti-aging. What is that really? But you know, ways to age gracefully and age well, and to be comfortable at any age, to be fit at every age. You know, I do a lot of jiu-jitsu work because it was my first love, grappling. And, you know, the aging athlete in jiu-jitsu, I specialize in that. So the website is maxwellsc.com. And follow me on Twitter and like my Facebook page. I'm always putting up pictures and videos. And I am a minimalist. I do travel the world, and I live out of one bag, and I own nothing. I have one 45-liter bag to my name. You know? And,
wow.
Yeah, just a few outfits, you know.
That's awesome. I follow you on Facebook. It's fun to see where you're at. You're always in these amazing locations, and it's great to hear that you're still living the lifestyle that you want to have and doing the things that you want to do and helping people.
Yeah. Well, hey, thanks. I appreciate you letting my voice be heard, and yeah, it's always great talking to you. So hopefully I'll see you around, man.
Absolutely.
It's a small world, and the jiu-jitsu community is not that big. Everyone thinks it's big, but it's not that many of us. So I'm sure we'll run into each other one of these days.
Yep, sounds good. Well, thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Byron.
All right, I want to thank Steve Maxwell for the interview. Check him out online. I'll put a link to his website. He does a lot of coaching over the internet. Definitely urge you, if you're looking for something like that, to find him. It's basically what he does. He's helping people online. And also he travels the world and teaches a bunch of seminars in person. But a big bulk of what he's doing is helping people online. That could be someone like you. If what he was saying really spoke to you today, check him out. All right, my friends, I'm bringing Jeremy Parrish to the BJJ Break podcast. He's a quick message. We've had him on a while ago, and Jeremy has a charity event here locally in Wichita, Kansas that he wants to talk to us about. Jeremy, what's happening, my man?
So on July 22nd, in conjunction with the We Defy Foundation, we're going to be running like a roll-a-thon, a grapple-a-thon, and essentially what's going to happen is from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Fox Fitness in Wichita, we're going to be running an open mat. It'll be gi, no gi, whatever. And we're just going to have it open and hopefully just get a bunch of people in to donate towards their fundraiser. The We Defy Foundation is fairly new. I believe they're going into their second full year. So this is one of the big events that they put on to really hit the fundraiser to help support your scholarship athlete.
That is awesome. I'm looking forward to this event. I will definitely be there. Don't know that's a big window of time. Not sure when for sure. But if you're wanting to beat me up a little bit, send me an email, and we'll make sure our schedules match up. Jeremy, so basically, gi, no gi, come in and roll and have a good time and raise some money for a great cause. Yeah,
absolutely. And, even if it's something that maybe, you're new to jiu-jitsu and maybe you just want to check it out and see what it's all about, it'd be a good time to come in. We're going to hopefully have a lot of guys from different gyms representing all levels of jiu-jitsu. So even if you're brand new, come check it out. Not everything has to be a roll. There'll be a lot of guys that would be willing to just drill some basics with you and help you out in that aspect as well. So, the more people that show up, the better turnout, and hopefully the more we raise for the We Defy Foundation.
Yeah, that's a very interesting idea. If you're new, or maybe you're listening to this and you really want to try jiu-jitsu, but you just haven't quite got the nerve up yet, and you're just thinking about it, this would be a great event. Come in and meet a bunch of people and see what jiu-jitsu is, and take away some of that scare factor that a lot of times you'll have trying something new. And yeah, we'll have a lot of nice people there. They'll be happy to show you if you tell them, hey, I'm pretty new at this. I've never actually done this before. You're going to have a great experience at an event like this. And this is at the gym that Jeremy and I both train at multiple times per week. So I'm sure Jeremy will be there having a good time. Jeremy's known to be passing out some footlocks. So I'll be looking forward to getting that done.
Some footlocks, toe holds, and knee bars for everybody with the show.
Awesome. Well, thanks for stopping by, Jeremy. And we look forward to the event on July 22nd. And Gary, we've got a different type of article this week. I guess all articles are different, but this one is kind of a technical article, which is something that we haven't had a lot of. It's called The 5 Commandments of the Underhook Half Guard. And it's on a website called BJJ Canvas. And I'll put a link to it in the show notes. But evidently, Gary, there are 5 commandments to a half guard, that underhook half guard. And I know Gary plays a lot of underhook half guard. We'll kind of see how he views these commandments. You go ahead.
Before we even get to it, I love the title BJJ Canvas, and he's, it's like it's paper that you're drawing on or painting on, and he says drawing on diverse sources in order to inspire that art that is jiu-jitsu. I just thought that was really unique.
That is cool.
And, and then just the top header, just a really cool website. I just wanted to throw that out there real quick. Sorry, I took us off topic there.
No, that's good. Gary's always recognizing the fine details of the artwork. This article is by Kenneth Brown. Gary, commandment the first. I will fight to stay on my side. How do you feel about that, Gary?
Oh, you definitely got to stay on your side. You don't want to get flattened out. Everything, all your offense and sweeps and everything comes from being on your side. So, that was the very first thing I learned was, fight and stay on your side.
Commandment the second. I will keep my bottom elbow glued to my side. What's that about, Gary?
You want to glue your elbow to your side, your bottom elbow to your side.
I have a left and a right elbow. What do you mean?
That would be whatever elbow is on the bottom.
So if I'm on my right side, it's going to be my right elbow?
I guess. I'm trying to picture that in my head.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at that stuff, Mark.
Yeah. Keep that arm in tight. When it kind of leaves your body there, it gets a lot weaker. And,
yeah. And just that space, it gives you something to, grab on and maybe flatten the guy out again, too. So, it goes back to number one. We want to stay on our side.
Gary, I want you to read the commandment number 3 in the epic voice. Let's hear you go, man.
Commandment number 3. I will win any battle for the underhook because I won't stop.
That was very intense.
Why, thank you. No, basically, you want to win that underhook battle. So you're going to fight. He's fighting to grab an underhook to flatten you back out, to put some shoulder pressure, under your jaw and underhook to flatten you out. And you're fighting, to get that underhook because you want to stay on your side. So, you're going to fight to the death for the underhook.
All right, Gary, since you're evidently doing requests, how about a more sexy voice on number 4?
Oh, Byron. I will make my opponent uncomfortable.
You can't say the word uncomfortable in a sexy voice.
Oh, I can't, Byron.
Let me hear it one more time, Gary.
Uncomfortable.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, thank you.
This is now uncomfortable of a podcast here. But, there's an element of discomfort to playing half guard, and that's something that you kind of have to realize. I think of the bottom position of being a little bit more uncomfortable than the top, especially if you get flattened out onto your back.
Yeah, you get flattened out, you get cross-faced. Definitely can be uncomfortable.
Yeah, and there's also opportunity there to make it uncomfortable by saying something, kind of whispering something into their ear. That might make them be a little bit awkward. Do you have an example of something you could whisper to them that might make them a little bit uncomfortable, Gary?
The one thing I've noticed when I'm going against an opponent, and if I really want to make that person uncomfortable, and to be honest, I've said it numerous times. I've just watched people throw up. I've seen uncontrollable diarrhea. I've seen flatulence just from mentioning this word. But I just look them right in the eye and say, Byron Jabara.
Oh, burn.
Works every time.
Okay. Most of the time it's just like, who's that? Commandment. Commandment number 5. I will control the distance and establish leverage, which sounds really easy, but is not oftentimes very easy.
I remember when I first started working half guard, I was training with Jason Bircher, who we've had on this show before. And that was one of the big things he talked to me about is, controlling the distance. And it was one thing that I wasn't doing very well when I first started. And thanks to a little bit of help from him, I understood it a lot better. And it really did change my half guard game.
Yeah. Gary, what do you think about so this article that we literally read 5 sentences out of an article that's probably 4 pages long. And he's got details about each thing and a lot more half-guard stuff. But what do you think about the idea of having kind of a set of rules for a position to kind of keep you go in the right direction, give you some ground rules of what you should be trying to do at least? Is that a good idea?
Oh, I think it's a great idea. Otherwise you're just doing it haphazardly. There's people who've come before, each and every person and found out what works best for them in half guards. The first person who ever used half guards is like, hey, what's this? How am I going to get better at it? And, kept working and working. Other people started doing it. So, if you have a roadmap, a game plan to go by, how to get better at that position, how the position works. And, you're going to use those, bullet points and, in your training. And it also helps you where you can train, at home, mentally. You can just, take out this article and just start thinking about it and, just going through the steps and then reading in depth of each step. We didn't really go in depth, which we never really go in depth on our articles, but, there's a lot more to it. Like Byron said, it's not just 5 bullet points that we read. And, you can just sit there and read this article. And I guarantee you, just by reading the article, your half guard game will get better and, paying attention and thinking about it in your head.
Yeah. I really like the idea of having a base set of rules, and eventually you just know them, and I don't want to do this. I don't want to, really get my elbows far from my body when someone's in mount because they're going to armbar me. Like, you don't think about it. But at the beginning, you need to actually think, here's my 5 rules. I got to do these 5 things, and I'll be heading in the right direction, regardless of if I'm actually going to get those things done. Someone passes my guard. I got a shrimp. That's always a good option. Or I got to get to my knees. There's a couple things, but to give yourself rules for each position, like this is my goal. This is what I want to do. These are you could say commandments. And it'll cut down on your confusion because it'll give you, especially if you're newer at jiu-jitsu, it'll give you some options or some things to attempt, because it is frustrating when you get tapped out or you're just getting, kind of beat up on and you don't even know what to try to do. That's a very frustrating feeling. Like, I don't know what I should be trying. I know that it wouldn't work, but I don't even know what to attempt. And so just by having a set of kind of rules for each of the positions you find yourself in a lot really helps you out as far as cutting down the frustration and actually helping with your learning, because the more you get to try things, the better you get at them. And now
Yep.
Gary.
Yeah. Hey, and also too, right there on the top right-hand side, he does have an email list too, and it says, receive a free lesson from my half guard course. So definitely just put in your email address, which I just did because I just happened to see it, and I'm going to get a free lesson, and my jiu-jitsu will even get better.
Yep. And
so thank you, Kenneth Brown.
Yeah. That's way to go, Gary. Let me might be getting on that one myself. We'll be all half guarding around here.
And he also has, like his Facebook page on there, and I just did.
Gary, you're the man.
Yes.
If I'm working on my half guard, Gary's working on his half guard. What do we have?
A full guard.
Does it work like that?
I don't know. Well,
2 half guards should make a full guard.
Is 1. A 1 guard.
A 1 guard. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
And is 1 full? I don't know.
Yeah. It's wonderful.
It's wonderful. I just got confused, but
well, that happens a lot, Byron.
But good thing is, Gary, with the article wrapped up, we could briefly mention your audiobook.
I'm excited.
Yeah. So Gary never knows what the title of his audiobook is going to be about, and he has to kind of quickly come up with a topic and put a little bit of teeth into the material. And Gary's audiobook this week is called The Alligator Tooth, the one submission that will twist and turn and drag you under the deep water. That sounds pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy. What was the name of it again?
Yeah, I don't know. Something about the alligator tooth and how it will twist it.
Yeah. To take you out in deep water. And, a lot of people when you start jiu-jitsu don't really know what the deep water is. And, that's one big thing in jiu-jitsu is a good way to win is to take people out into the deep water. And kind of that's what we're going to go into with this book. I mean, we can fight people where they like to fight. Most people want to do it on a wrestling mat, and that's the normal thing for jiu-jitsu. Some people like to do it on bar room floors. They like to get in bar fights. Some people do it in a boxing ring. Some do it in MMA cage. Some people like to fight in school. So, I mean, there's a lot of different venues. Yeah, not cool. You don't want to be too cool for school. But there's a lot of different venues to fight. And what we're saying is, we talk about chapter 1, we mentioned all the different venues and what are the advantages to each person. But what we want to do is really take a person out of their comfort zone and make it more advantageous for me to win a fight. And, today, there's a lot of rules and regulations. I mean, can you carry a gun? Can you carry a knife? Can you carry nunchucks? Can you carry Chinese throwing stars? Myself, I'm proficient with a bow staff.
Yeah.
Can I carry a bow staff? So, there's different rules in different cities, whether or not, you can be armed.
Gary,
yes.
As kind of a person who's playing the role of the reporter here, wanting to learn more about this audiobook, it's called something about the alligator tooth. You're also turning the tables on me because I make up a name for audiobook and you ask me what the name is again, and I can't even remember what I said 3 seconds ago. But is it true that you walk around with an alligator tooth necklace? And how do you use this, if it's true, in any sort of altercation you might find yourself in?
Well, Byron, that's where I was headed down that path right before you rudely interrupted me.
I'm sorry about that. I had to really inject the alligator necklace in.
I was talking about what kind of weapons you could carry and what you can. So basically, I do carry a necklace. I actually have 2 necklaces. One's a puka shell necklace, and then one is, a shark's tooth necklace. And that way a lot of people think I'm a beach bum, and they don't think much of me. But that shark tooth necklace, it really has a tooth. And I got it from one of the largest alligators you've ever saw. I don't know if you know this alligator, but this one particular alligator that I got it from, he's well known. He's the alligator that bit and took off the arm of Happy Gilmore's coach. So he's a really big alligator. But, I just happened to get one of his teeth. It's over 6 inches long, this tooth, and it's I've grinded it down to razor sharpness.
Gary, I have no idea what's going on anymore. I think, and you could rewind the episode 2 minutes. Are you interchanging the word shark and alligator?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
alligator.
Because I'm so confused.
Yeah, sorry, I meant alligator. My apologies. Yeah, alligator.
Part of the myth of the necklaces. What is it really made out of?
Yeah.
So,
well, most sharks and alligator teeth, I don't know if you know this or not, if you've actually done some research on this, but a lot of it is made out of calcium. And so it's really kind of the same DNA in both teeth. So it's really not much of a difference.
Yeah, they're basically the same. They're basically a tooth.
Yeah, a tooth is a tooth. So, what I start the first part is you always have to carry a weapon. And nowhere is an alligator tooth necklace outlawed. No, city, state, jurisdiction will outlaw that. There are some that have outlawed shark tooth necklaces.
That's true.
But nobody has outlawed an alligator tooth. So you can carry it everywhere. You can even take it through flying an airplane with it, which a lot of people are doing today.
Gary, it seems like as a jiu-jitsu guy, you would be cautious of having something around your neck that's sharp and pokey like a tooth. Are you able to defend it if somebody tries to choke you with your own tooth necklace?
Oh, no, my necklace is a breakaway necklace. Oh. It's, held together with Velcro. So I pull it off and, I put it between my fingers and scratch people with it. That's what I do.
I see.
It's kind of like a cow paw.
And how much is one of the necklaces comes with the digital download? Is that right?
Yes, you can actually plug it into a USB port, and save everything if you need to. That's one of the advantages of it.
And it comes free with it. That's cool.
Yes. Yep. But, you're not letting me get to the second part of the book. Part 2 of the book, now we talk about dragging people into deep water.
Yeah.
There's a little prologue to the book that is going to teach you how to swim, hold your breath, and wear fins. So you carry fins everywhere you go. But what we're going to do is when we get into a fight, we are actually going to drag people into the water. We're going to drag them into deep water. A lot of people can't swim. Very many people can't swim. And some people can't swim without floaties. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag them into the water. And then we're going to, scratch them with our alligator tooth. And you're probably going to win because they're going to use so much energy flapping around while you have very efficient strokes. So it should be a no-brainer and you should win very easily. And then normally when you win, you'll go over to the popcorn stand, grab yourself a popcorn and a soda just to celebrate.
Man, this is going to be an amazing audio book with a digital download of a necklace. This is probably a first in the world.
Yep, definitely a first. So definitely check it out. It should be out in time for St. Patrick's Day.
Nice. You're really getting it together over there, Gary.
Thank you.
It's going to be alligator shark tooth necklace. Deep water extraordinaire.
Yep.
A lot of things going on.
A lot of people are just calling it Jaws.
Yeah, that'll work. You got it. And I think that movie tried to rip off your title.
Yep, but Steven Spielberg doesn't have anything on me.
Nobody has anything on you, Gary, except our social media Facebook page, because you're on that. You are, and you're on that. And how could you get something on yourself? It's like Chuck Norris can't punch himself in the face. Check out BJJ Brick, our Facebook page. That is our main social media outlet. Our YouTube channel is our second place to go other than the podcast. So we got those things going on, Gary.
Yep. We also have Patreon going on. Check out our link to Patreon. Patreon is a website for content producers like ourselves. It's an avenue where if you do have the means, you can donate a little bit of money one time or per show to support BJJ Brick. And we would not be able to put these shows on each and every week without our slew of BJJ Brick Patreon supporters. And we thank each and every one of you guys.
Yep. And we thank them with sending them a BJJ Brick gi patch, and now just recently arriving in the mail are stickers. So the current Patreon supporters have already gotten the stickers. If you are a Patreon supporter and you haven't got a sticker, maybe your address is wrong in the listing there. Maybe you moved, or maybe you're no longer currently a Patreon supporter for one reason or another. It dropped you, or your credit card changed, something like that. It's probably the most common thing. But stickers and patches to all of our friends on Patreon. It's a lot. It's a way that we can say thank you, because we really appreciate you.
Yep. And definitely thank everybody for listening, and tell your friends about us. Our best form of flattery is somebody who comes up and sends us a message at bjjbrick@gmail.com that says, hey, I listened to your show for the first time today. It was really great. I loved it. And I want to thank so-and-so who told me about it. And so definitely let all your friends know. And also, if you happen to be traveling and you come through the Midwest, definitely check us out. Send us a message. We'd love to roll. We're in Wichita, Kansas, right in the middle of Kansas. So if you do happen to come through, we'd love to get on the mat with you. And this week, we actually had 2 guests come out. I don't think we've ever had 2 guests in 1 week. But so thanks for coming out and rolling with us.
Yeah, thanks, Matt and Denise. I think my schedule matched up better with Matt's, but I hope he'll be back in the town sometime and get to beat up on Gary a little bit. It's not just me all the time.
Actually, I'd rather just have beat up on you, Bob.
Dang it! No, but I did have a blast rolling with a couple listeners this week, and that was a lot of fun. Gary, I want to tell you about next week. We have Leah Taylor. One of my favorite teams to find people and interview them from is Straight Blast Gym, and Leah Taylor's a black belt at Straight Blast Gym, and she just took 3rd at Worlds. And what an impressive accomplishment that is. And I just had a conversation with her a few days ago. Really excited to air that with you guys. And what a great person to get on the show next week. And I'm really going to be happy to bring you Leah Taylor.
So definitely make sure you tune in next week. Leah Taylor.
Yep, she did a great interview. Thanks so much, everybody. Stay sweaty, my friends.
And don't forget to get some high-quality H2O from your training partners.
Yeah, you gotta stay hydrated. I like it, Gary. If you're getting sweaty, You gotta replenish the fluids that have leaked out of your pores.
Yep. Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, the best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Gary, here we go,
Yes.
my friend. This is our 3rd attempt. I think the first time we did the Word Association game, it was kind of a real spur of the moment thing, and it was pretty funny. Second time, it kind of petered out, and I kind of jumbled it up with a sentence in the word. We'll try the 3rd time and see if we're going to keep this segment going.
We need to practice and get better at it.
I don't know how you practice this. You're just kind of. How about you start the word off, Gary? Word association. What do you have for us, Gary?
Alligator tooth.
Shark tooth. Come on. You're all right. You're right. Stay cool. Stay cool.
Happy Gilmore.
Golf.
Hit the ball. That's not a word.
Okay.
Okay, let's start this all over again.
Okay.
Wait, word association is 1 word, not 2, right?
You could. Well, shark tooth is 1 word. It's 1 thing. So I think we're all right.
Okay.
I'll keep it all
Ball.
this, Gary. Okay. Balls.
Humans.
Grapplers.
Armbar.
Kimura.
Head and arm.
Choke.
Heel hook.
Shoe.
Boot.
Laces.
Tongue.
Sucky. Sucky segment. Oh man.
Yeah, I think our segment blows.
Okay. Okay.
All right, I think we need to find a better segment.
We'll put that one in the blooper reel and retire word association game.